On a freezing night in April 1912, the world's largest ship was moving through the Atlantic. Nobody knew that this journey would soon become history's most famous maritime tragedy. Only hours earlier, Titanic was a symbol of human achievement. Passengers believed they were traveling on the safest ship ever built. Far above the deck, the lookouts searched the endless darkness. But the ocean ahead was hiding a deadly secret. At 11:40 p.m., a massive iceberg appeared directly in Titanic's path. The warning came too late. The iceberg did not create one giant hole. Instead, it damaged several sections of the ship's hull. Deep below the decks, engineers fought a battle they could never win. The ocean was entering the ship. The truth became clear.
Captain, the water is rising in all 5 compartments. We must begin the emergency evacuation.
Titanic was seriously damaged, and time was running out. The wireless operators sent their final calls for help into the empty Atlantic. At first, many passengers could not believe Titanic was in danger. The impossible was becoming reality. The order was finally given. Prepare the lifeboats. Every decision mattered. Every second could mean the difference between life and death. For many passengers in third class, reaching the lifeboats became a desperate struggle. Amid the chaos, the musicians continued playing, offering comfort during humanity's darkest hour. The lifeboats slowly disappeared into the darkness, leaving hundreds behind on the sinking ship. The calm voyage had transformed into a fight for survival. Those in the lifeboats could only watch as the greatest ship of its era disappeared. The enormous pressure became too much. Titanic was reaching the end of its journey. In the early hours of April 15 of 1912, Titanic vanished beneath the Atlantic. The final minutes of Titanic had begun. The ship that was once called impossible to sink was now fighting against the ocean. For those still on board, there was nowhere left to escape. The cold Atlantic surrounded them. The officers continued their duty until the very end, knowing the ship's fate was sealed. Deep inside the ship, engineers sacrificed themselves to keep the lights burning for those above. The symbols of luxury that once represented Titanic's greatness were now disappearing beneath the waves.
In the final moments of the voyage, the ship's radio operators continued sending desperate messages across the ocean, hoping that help would arrive in time.
Far away in the darkness, survivors watched silently as the enormous ship that carried their hopes slowly vanished into the Atlantic. At approximately 2:20 a.m., Titanic finally broke apart and slipped beneath the Atlantic. The ocean became silent. More than 1,000 lives were left behind in the freezing water. Where the world's greatest ship had sailed hours before, only lifeboats remained. The survivors faced a new battle, surviving the freezing Atlantic night. Many survivors would remember the sounds from the ocean for the rest of their lives. Some boats returned to search, risking their own lives to save others. Hours later, a rescue ship finally appeared on the horizon. The survivors were pulled from the freezing ocean and carried towards safety.
Oh my God!
But behind them was a tragedy that the world would never forget. When the news reached the world, millions were shocked by the disaster. Titanic's story became one of the most famous events of the 20th century. Behind the headlines were thousands of personal stories of courage and loss. Every passenger had a story, and every story became part of Titanic's legacy. Decades later, Titanic's remains were discovered deep beneath the Atlantic. The discovery revealed a frozen moment from history, preserved underwater. Even after more than a century, Titanic continues to tell its story. The ship became more than a disaster. It became a lesson about human ambition and responsibility. The tragedy changed ocean safety forever and led to new rules for future voyages. Titanic's final voyage changed the world viewed maritime safety. More than a century later, Titanic remains a reminder of courage, tragedy, and survival. The Titanic was lost beneath the waves, but its story continues to live forever in human history.